Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Desi TV USA. I am Tabinda Gul. Let's take a look at a very special report. Viewers, American Community Media is convening a high-stake national media briefing was on Friday, May 9th, asking a questions that rapidly gaining urgency across the country. Is American democracy in decline? This event comes just 100 days into Donald Trump's return to the presidency, a period marked by escalating public concern. A non-partisan PRRI polls show that 52% of Americans now believe Trump is a dangerous dictator. A separate ABC News Washington Post survey reveals nearly half of the population fear the president is consolidating unchecked power by passing legal norms and weakening key democratic safeguards. Now, panelists and scholars warn that we are witnessing are not isolated incident but a pattern repeated attack on the judiciary, sidelining of experts in favor of loyalists targeting independent media and the use of government power to silence dissent and reward political alliance. These, they argue, are classic symptoms of democratic decay. To analyze the scope of this movement and assess whether Americans' democratic institutions can endure, a distinguished panel will offer their insight. Professor Lokan Ahmadway, an internationally recognized expert on democratizations and authoritarianism, will open the discussions drawing from his research in post-Soviet state. Professor Way is expected to say democracies don't typically collapse overnight, they erode gradually. What we are seeing in the United States is a creeping authoritarianism which where power is centralized, dissent is discouraged, and democratic norms are devalued. The warning cite our textbook. He will argue that America's current trajectory mirrors troubling patterns seen in countries they have slipped into autocracy. Next, Professor Aziz Haq, a scholar of US and comparative constitutional law from the University of Chicago, will provide a legal analyst. He expected to address the fragility of constitutional safeguard and the rise of executive overreach. Democratic backsliding often occurs when legal systems are hollowed from within. We must ask, and our courts, legislators, and civil society strong enough to withstand sustained pressures from an authoritarian-minded executive. Now, Professor Huck will also highlight the limits of legal resources in the face of coordinated institutional undermining. Finally, Professor Gloria Braun Marshall, a constitutional law professor and veteran civil rights attorney, will speak on the historical and racial dimensions of democratic decline in America. She will remind audience that for many marginalized communities, democracy has long been aspirational rather than guaranteed. She is expected to say this is not the first time democracy has been tested in America, but what's different now is the speed and scale of the erosion. We must remember that democracy is not just a set of institutions but a lived experience. If those in power manipulate laws to suppress voices, especially of black, brown, and immigrant communities, we are already in a state of democratic regression. Professor Braun Marshall will emphasize the role of civil rights activism and public resistance in safeguarding what remains of democratic governance. The briefing is open to the public with simultaneous interpretation offered in Spanish, Korean, and Mandarin. Registration is required and participants can select their preferred language during sign up. So, as concern dependent questions multiply, this forum promises a candid, expert driving analysis of a pressing national issue. So, is the United States still a functioning democracy or it is drafting towards authoritarianism?
Weekly National Briefing. I'm Pilar Marrero, your moderator for today. Is American democracy in decline?
India, any of those places. Actually, so this is that's the really big difference. And also the sort of open disregard for the courts and court rulings and legality. I think that's something that was, quite surprising to us. I can't hear you. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I was muted. I apologize. Did you finish?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I will move on to a question for Professor Huck. Professor Huck, there's been many lawsuits filed against Trump executive actions and decisions. Many judges from all political persuasions have decided against his decisions. The administration seems to be complying with some orders and not with others. What happens when a president defies judges and calls them a disgrace or rejects their decisions?
Thanks, Pilar, for that question. Building upon what Professor Wei, I think, correctly described, in the first few months of the Trump administration, we've observed a pattern of both partial non-compliance with court orders and a broad-ranging, both rhetorical and legal attack on the court system to the extent it acts as a check on the executive branch.
Citizens. And so now we see that the practice of constitutional crisis that was applied there is now spreading, being expanded to other groups. And as it's expanded, we begin to watch it in real time. And I think that has frightened many people who were used, or as I said, numb to the fact that constitutional rights, protections of free speech, equal protection, and other rights under the Constitution, voting rights, were being ignored for the most part, or just outright voter suppression was being allowed and ignored by the majority community.
Institutions, the media, and the like. So I think that is really kind of a major, shift in American history going on, right now.
Well, I'm going to go to the chat because we have a number of questions and they are great. Peter, you want to ask your question? Peter Sherman from American Community Media.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, I was trying to unmute. I posted in the chat this question, and I just want to add another piece to it.
So viewers, thank you for watching and thank you for supporting. This is me, Tabinda, signing off. Stay tuned for more news. DCTV USA, DTVN, and our OTT platform, DTV Flex, where you can access to over 3,000 channels. So stay tuned and stay with us.
Neurological care is a pressing healthcare challenge in Pakistan. That's why Helping Hand USA is building Kind R, a world-class hospital with 130-plus clinics that is set to establish new standards for neurological care in Pakistan. As the first phase nears completion, anticipation is growing for the launch in the second half of 2025. Give zakat and sadaqah through Helping Hand USA today and join this historic endeavor to redefine future healthcare in Pakistan.